Let's move on to the fifth and final main topic today. And our fifth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Busan Y, who writes, "Greetings, John. In a day and age when it feels like every movie we're waiting for is either getting delayed and pushed off their dates with no new dates given yet, did you see that Uncharted just got moved up 3 months from October of 2021 to July of 2021? Does this move indicate that Sony has a firm idea on when they will likely go into production on the movie? Thank you and have a good day." All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And you're right. In the midst of Spider-Man even getting delayed, every studio delaying their films, we've seen a few instances like Christopher Nolan's Tenet, Mulan, which did get bumped, but still staying rather early at this point. Now Uncharted has actually moved up its release date. This comes to us from Screen Rant that writes, "Uncharted fans will now have to wait a little less time to see the upcoming movie adaptation. Sony has bumped its release date up by 3 months. Uncharted is based on the popular video game series of the same name, which tells the story of a treasure hunter, Nathan Drake. He's joined by Ella Fisher, a journalist who also becomes Drake's romantic partner. The game also features Victor Sullivan. Drake's mentor is going to be played by Marky Mark of the Funky Bunch, of sorts, with fellow hunter Chloe Fraser rounding out the group." That, of course, comes to us from Screenland. So, yes, in the midst of all this stuff about all these movies getting delayed, we do hear about Uncharted moving up. It does create the interesting question that they bring up in the email. Does this indicate to us, by instead of just staying quiet and waiting to see, they actually made the decision and announced the decision that they are moving up Uncharted by 3 months? Now, remember, it had previously been delayed, so this is kind of a counterpoint on that. But still, they made the decision to move it up. I think, Rob, much like Spider-Man, this is probably partially a part of the overall restructure of their release schedule. But when they asked, do I think this could be some kind of indication that Sony may actually think that they've got a handle on when they might go into production on this movie? I'm going to say yes. I think it does. I think by moving the release date of this movie up, tells us that while they may be correct or incorrect, to me it sort of suggests that Sony seems to believe that they're going to be able to go into production on this sooner rather than later, and they probably have a targeted date. And Rob, they may not be wrong about that. Because as we look at what's going on around the world, you look at some places like, for instance, this morning I was reading about New Zealand. New Zealand, which did a much better job than a lot of other countries in jumping on their problem when they first recognized there was a problem, they just announced that they have exterminated the problem. They have now, I believe yesterday, while certain countries are still having tens of thousands of new cases reported a day, they are down to the single digits of new cases. I think they reported like 4 new cases in one day. That has them now starting the process of alleviating their restrictions and stuff like that. And we're going to see other countries around the world kind of start. We've already seen, I think it was Sweden that kind of opened up. They've allowed film production to start up again. And I think Sony has probably got their eye at shooting this thing, and they probably have an idea. It's probably not going to be next week. It's probably not going to be next month. But it seems to me that Sony has a belief here that they think they've got an idea when they're going to be able to go back into production again. And I think the moving of this date is a nice indication of that. Anyway, Rob, you're seeing this thing. Am I being overly optimistic, which has happened from time to time, about the notion that they could be moving on this? Do you think they have an idea for it, or do you think this is just a matter of scheduling? How do you see the situation?
No, I think exactly what you said. I think absolutely they've got a plan. Remember, it's not like everybody just stopped working. And when it comes to movie making, there's always more planning that you can be doing. Movie making is logistics. It's moving personnel and equipment. And with the Uncharted film, I think a lot of it, whatever location shooting they're going to do, they've probably rejiggered around the schedule and figured out how to make it all work. And they've been meticulously, this time, how many times do, movies usually are rapidly going into production, and you'd always want more time. And I think in this case, they've probably been able to keep their pre-planning tight, and they've got it down to a science, and I'm sure they're ready to just hit the ground running. Remember, as we heard from Tom Holland, they went to set. They were going to be shooting this movie already.
Yep.
So they're ready to go. They're locked and loaded. They've been sitting there now for what, a month and a half, 2 months? Well, a month and a half, just with their loaded gun, ready to pull the trigger. So I think of all movies, this movie is been sitting on the launch pad, gassed up and ready to go. So I think it's great. I think it shows a lot of confidence in both the material and the film itself. And I think if nothing else, at the end of the day, the only thing I care about, John, the only thing that makes any difference to me at all is if the movie's good and I like it. And I love the Uncharted franchise, and I'm looking forward to this movie. And I really hope, I mean, the casting is a little interesting to me, not the way I would have cast the film perhaps, but I love all the performers that are in it, and I'm really pulling for this film. I want it to be great.
Yeah, and the one thing you kind of alluded to there, which I think is a really nice point here, is that Sony seems ravenously confident in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, they seem really, really confident in this thing, and they seem to be kind of pushing it where they need to push it. It's going to be interesting to see how this sort of unfolds over the next little while, as with the industry as a whole. Question here is, guys, what do you think about the move to move Uncharted up? Do you think that this kind of shows that Sony believes they know where they're going to be able to start shooting? Maybe not. Maybe that's being overly optimistic. What do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.